Good evening. The meeting of the Dudley Charlton Regional School District of April 12th, 2023 at 7 p.m. We're at Shepherd Hill Regional High School, and we will stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll take a moment of silence. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to the consent agenda items. Are there any items in the consent agenda list that you want pulled out to have a discussion on? No. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed.
So moved. Second.
Second. Okay.
Who moved? I'm sorry. Yep, sorry.
And Kelly seconded. Great. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. We'll move on to the communications. Does any of our members have any communications? Yes.
I have one, reminded by the CPAC that the CPAC's next meeting is, sorry, it changed, so I had to pull it up, is Thursday, April 27th at Dudley Middle School, and it will be hybrid because it's a presentation from the Federation of Children with Special Needs on what bullying is, what the school's legal obligation to prevent and address bullying, and strategies and tools for dealing with bullying, and how to address bullying in the IEP. So if anybody wants any more information or wants to be able to attend and get the Zoom link, just reach out to cpac@dcrsd.org.
And just to confirm, it's Thursday, April 27th. Where is the location?
For in-person, Dudley Middle School, but it'll also be on Zoom.
So they can join on Zoom
It's
as
hybrid,
well.
yep.
Wonderful. And what time is it at?
7.
7 p.m. Great, thank you. Does anybody else have anything? No? Okay. We'll move on to our student representative report. Olivia?
Yo. Had a quite busy couple of weeks, so excuse my absences. What's been going on? Shepherd Hill Show Choir recently just had our district show last week. It went awesome. My last time performing, and I'm gonna miss show choir, but you know, it is what it is. The music department, Great East Festival is May 5th. There's a spring fling dance on Saturday, May 6th, in the cafeteria here. The tickets will be on sale at lunches, April 24th, April 28th. Tickets are $10. Prom tickets will be going on sale soon for $90. My pockets are sweating. April break is next week, and some of the students will be going on the foreign language trip to Spain, Portugal, and then the Gibraltar Strait, which is in between Africa and Spain. Spirit Week, which I love and I participate in. Monday was Neon Day. Tuesday was Tropical Day. Today was Class Color Day. The seniors were black, and that's all that matters. Tomorrow's USA Day, and Friday is Maroon and Gold Day. The Shepherd Hill Music Department will be going to Six Flags on May 6th, I believe. Yeah. And again, the music department will be doing a spring concert at the Heidelberg University Choir on May 18th. AP exams are coming up. Wishing all AP students good luck. The senior class trip to Block Island is Wednesday, May 31st for $40. Senior banquet is June 1st at Holy Cross for $10. Let's see. Last week in May is the show choir auditions, so any 8th grader coming up to 9th grade should definitely check that out, try out for show choir. Let's see. the banquet for our Shepherd Hill Band is tomorrow. Congrats for a great season. And recently, the Shine Initiative has come and done presentations for our gym class on mental health initiatives. And me personally, I thought that was really, really great. Mental health is something super important to me. So I'm glad that they came and did a presentation. And I also like to mention the book we're reading in English. I love this book. It's really great to be able to read this book, and I loved the theme classes that Shepherd Hill decided to do this year for the 12th graders. It's The Bite of the Mango. It's about the Sierra Leone War, the Civil War. Give it a read. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and School Committee. I do have a number of items to speak about this evening. One of them is I want to once again publicly thank the Charlton and Dudley Town administrators and representative boards of selectmen, Finance Committee, and Finance Appropriations and Advisory Committee members for all of their work this past year. As we know, the fiscal landscape continues to be complex, but we really appreciate everyone's time because we're talking about mostly, if not all, volunteers from the two communities that are working on this with us, including yourself as a school committee. But I appreciate their members' willingness to work with DCRSD leaders and you as a school committee. We will maintain open lines of communication as there is more work to accomplish in preparation for fiscal year 2024. Furthermore, Richard Matthew and I continue our commitment and collaborative work with the town administrators John Reuter from Dudley and Andrew Golis from Charlton to understand the overall respective town fiscal systems. Because they are different, as much as we want them to think that they're the same, they are different. We can't thank them enough for their partnership with this endeavor over time. The next item I have is we continue to focus on the health and safety of all of our students and staff. Our district has conducted lockdowns over the last couple of weeks, and we will do so again before the school year concludes. We are lucky to have a healthy working relationship with our local police departments who willingly participate in our lockdown drills and provide feedback for us as well. In addition, last week, the Edward Davis Company facilitated a training with DCRSD staff to include district administrators, principals, assistant principals, the nurse coordinator, maintenance, and our school resource officer. The trainers had over 60 years of law enforcement experience at various levels of law enforcement. There were 3 total trainers. There was one newer trainer who had minimal experience, but he was a great addition to their team. They reviewed scenarios specific to active shooters and relocation decision-making for us as a district. These scenarios tested our collective thinking and protocols. We learned that we have foundational protocols and a strong consensus within our practice, but we also identified areas we can improve upon as a school district. A training for a larger group will include Dudley Charlton first responders and the DCRSD participants that I already had mentioned in the first training. It is scheduled for May 9th from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Our training will continue with relocation and reunification protocols and practices. What I would like to do is invite a school committee representative to participate and attend as well, if somebody is so willing to. It's May 9th from roughly 11 to 3:30 p.m.
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday. Sorry. If somebody is, just let me know. Just,
I just don't have my work schedule.
okay. I just think it would be important for a school committee member to listen to our collective discourse as well. Okay? Next item, which I included a picture. I'm pleased to share with you that the Dudley Charlton Education Foundation Heroes Among Us event was a huge success. The evening was filled with celebration, appreciations, and a group of heroes that would make every resident of Dudley and Charlton very proud for their recognition within our community. So I included a picture of the Heroes Among Us within that particular group, which was announced at the last school committee meeting. Next item, I write to share that we have 2 administrative resignations for the end of this school year, and will need to conduct a search for who will be next. Charlton Elementary School Principal Miss Jennifer Lilly, who's in our audience this evening, has resigned effective June 30th, 2023. We certainly appreciate her work over the past 2 years as we transitioned out of COVID, and thank her for her commitment to the students and families of Charlton Elementary School. We wish her well with what is next. I'm here to announce that Mason Road Principal, Ms. Jennifer Desto, will facilitate the search process for the position of the Charlton Elementary School principal moving forward. Next, the Director of Pupil Personnel Services, Mr. Robert Bergeron, who is sitting at our table this evening, has resigned effective June 30th, 2023. We again appreciate his work and steadfast leadership once he landed here and thank him for his commitment to the students, staff, and families at all 7 schools. We wish him well as he moves on to Billerica Public Schools. Assistant Superintendent Dr. Brian Ackerman will facilitate the search process for the position of DCRSD, Director of Pupil Personnel Services, moving forward. So both those positions will be posted tomorrow. Okay? Next, as we have shared during previous meetings, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, when I say we, more specifically Dr. Ackerman and Director Bergeron, but the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, known as the department, conducts routine tiered focus monitoring reviews of our educational programs for students. We've also shared that the Dudley Charlton district model at times tends to focus on the minimum, as that is often all we can afford. More specifically, a model that starts with stipend positions in lieu of hiring full-time individuals for full-time positions. We have also shared that the needs of our students from our communities is compounding and complex in recent times. One could argue coming out of COVID. With that said, our current English learners model for service has been identified by the department this year as not working. As a result of recent tiered focus monitoring report regarding our English learners programs and services, the department identified numerous areas of non-compliance across our schools. The department identified that DCRSD does not have enough EL staff to implement our EL program with fidelity. As a result, our department corrective action plan, department meaning the DESI, corrective action plan includes the hiring of 1 additional full-time EL teacher to provide the required services to our EL population and bring the EL program and services back into compliance with state regulations. Therefore, I am respectfully asking and requesting the DCRSD School Committee to take action on this request this evening so that we can hire a permanent EL teacher and move back into compliance with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
I'll make a motion for discussion.
I'll second.
Yes, go ahead.
I understand that we are currently out of compliance on this, and I think we need to move on it because how do we stay out of compliance? But my next question is gonna be, what happens if we do not, if the town of Dudley does not vote in favor of the override, and therefore we see far more challenging positions that we are not in compliance with, and we don't have any money, so where are we gonna find the money to fund this? And what if this is the trend of what's coming if we don't see the override pass?
Yes, go ahead.
Madam Chair and School Committee, Member Terry, that's a fantastic question. And as we've presented over time, without the proper resources and finances, our district will move and target our resources towards being in compliant. We'll become a compliance district. We're required to do that. That's the agency that funds half of our budget. That's the requirements of that agency for us as a district. So without the funds, we will have to take from somewhere else to make sure that we are in compliance. So we have provided a number of areas that we could reduce to move into compliance that aren't compliance required. The example we give and we've given, and that, school committee has taken a firm stance on, which I support 100%, don't get me wrong, is half-day kindergarten. Full-day kindergarten is not a requirement. You're not out of compliance if you go with half-day kindergarten. But not servicing EL students is out of compliance. So somewhere there's a give and take, and there has to be a direct direction to our resources to being in compliance meeting the requirements of our state.
Okay, and then I guess my follow, I kind of knew that, but I asked it publicly because I feel like it needs to be stated. When did we learn this, and is this something that we were aware of, that we were not compliant? And and then secondly, where would we find the funds to fund this position?
Remember, Terry, we were learning this because they were doing the TFM report this year, the Tiered Focus Monitoring report this year, and evaluation this year. It was starting to come out at the end of February. So we've been working on it, working on what a corrective action plan would look like, working with staff, trying to figure out the plan, and that's why it's come to this urgent and necessitates us requesting this evening.
Okay, and where would we fund it from?
For the balance of this fiscal year, I would recommend that the committee appropriate school choice funds. And obviously, this is a position we'll have to factor into the FY24 budget. And when we have direction from the voters as to where that FY24 budget is going, it will, again, be one of the positions that is regulatory, is required, and may be in place in the budget instead of something else that was originally planned.
Do you have other questions?
I assume this is the only corrective action that came out of the report so far, or is the report completed, and are there gonna be more issues arising, or is this it?
There were other administrative and organizational issues, but this is the most glaring and most costly correction that we're looking at. I don't know if Director Bergeron, if you wanted to add anything to that, or?
There are two different focus monitoring reviews that happen. One is specific to EL, the other is specific to special education with some civil rights oversight as well. This is the only corrective action that we would need help with the EL tiered focus monitoring.
Has the other review been done, the second one? Yes, okay.
I guess I have a couple questions about this. I mean, did they request that we have this corrective action immediately? Or could it happen in the next school year? Because at this point, anyone that we hire, we're taking away from another district. And there's not much time left in our school year. So by the time we hire somebody, it's even less time left in the school year.
Madam Chair, I appreciate the question, but the bottom line is we're not meeting these kids' needs now. So it's really requires an immediate reaction on our part to meet our students' needs.
I guess my question is, did we not know we weren't meeting their needs in September, in October?
As a district, we have been patching together our EL services, and we've had move-ins as well as every other district in the Commonwealth for EL students. As a matter of fact, it's been more common now to enroll students who have had no formal education as an EL student coming into our district, which means their needs have compounded, so the required time for those students. So it's not as simple as saying that we knew that we had 5 students that required a half hour at the beginning of the school year, and that's still the same now. We've had move-ins that have compounded the scheduling and being able to exercise, again, our stipended positions. We have two full-time EL teachers at their primary grades. We have a high school department head who shares that role of EL at the high school level, and then the rest of it is just piecemeal in all the other schools. So we tried to do the best we could to put it all together, but this is coming out. I mean, part of it too was that the evaluator changed from prior years as well. So it's a new evaluator for DESI that came into our district too. So yeah, again, always bring in another set of eyes as another layer of, what was maybe missed in the past or not. But again, we've had move-ins all year long of EL students, and trying to meet their needs is not as simple as just providing them the same service.
I would add, in meeting with Barbara Matarosian and tracking this over the course of the year, we've had significant numbers of students move in with very limited English, which an EL student could be someone who needs very little support in a school. An EL student could also be someone that needs 90 minutes or more of support during the school day. We really have 4 teachers that cover 7 buildings. So when we have these students who move in who have this drastically increased need, it's not one, just like special education, some kids on IEPs need significantly more support than others. So it's not just numbers, it's also need. We've seen this year in particular, a drastic increase in student need in this area. And that's caused us to go to a place where we're very out of compliance. It is no gray area where DESI could give us some room to work. 6 of our 7 buildings are out of compliance.
Okay, so this position is not factored in to next year's budget when we made the budget? Is that accurate?
That's accurate as of today, yeah.
Okay.
But we've only voted on an overall budget yet. We still haven't talked about what reductions, and I don't think that's going to happen again this evening, but we still,
Right.
this is in play in all of that, without question.
Right. Okay. Do we have any more discussion?
I was just curious what the timeline is for the corrective action. Like, how long do we have?
DESI doesn't really tolerate continuing with a model that's not supporting students as we are required to. So it's the plan that was submitted through our EL department is that we're presenting this to the school board, and as soon as you approve it, we are hiring. And hopefully we will find a qualified candidate soon.
Let's just say, what if we don't?
Then we let Desi know that we're trying.
DESI needs to see movement and effort.
Okay. Yes.
How do we support the students while we look? Now we've identified that their needs are not being met. Are we reallocating staff in other areas so that we can make sure we meet these children's needs?
We have, yes, so we're doing the best we can. We've already changed some assignments this year under Ms. Matarosian's guidance.
And what is the, how much are you budgeting for this?
It's really going to be based off of experience at this point in time. Again, we'll have to dip into the school choice funding for that. So it's not as easy. There are positions that aren't always easy to fill, to set a number of, let's say, $60,000 and say that that's the position. Because you could have somebody with a wealth of experience that would not only add to the position that we're creating, but add to our district as well.
Mhm.
And it's as we've identified here, this is a very limited pool of candidates for this position.
Yeah. Yes.
Just one other question. Is it safe to assume that this person will be used at all the schools? Or are we reaching this person for one particular school or hiring this person?
Again, as Director Bergeron said, we're out of compliance in 6 schools out of 7. So we will have to look at how we're programming everybody, and this person could be split between 6, 2, 3, 1. That's part of finding the right person for the position to meet the students' needs.
Can I ask if we've looked at contracted services for the remainder of the school year?
We could look at that, but this needs to be a permanent hire, so putting this off through a contracted service, which right now contracted services have not been very successful in filling our needs. So that's even less likely to find someone that's doing part-time work in this area.
I feel that if I'm a person looking to go into a district, and with the financial implications that we have in our current district, we need to make sure that we're at least looking at contracted services as a backup plan, just so that we have a backup plan ready if we cannot find someone for the remainder of the
I'd be
year.
happy to do that.
Yep, and as Director Bergeron, we've looked at that all year long, but again, just like that, again, I'll go back to the reason why Operational Services Division allowed private tuition schools to raise their by 14%. It's because these specialized positions and specialized role they're not deep pools of candidates for those particular positions, which again is tied to contracted services to fill these as well. That's something we've been doing since we came out of COVID, to look for contracted services for areas of gaps in which we're not meeting students' needs, but their resources are just as limited as everybody else.
Agreed. Okay.
How many students are a part of our EL program?
We're at about 130-ish students right now. Some students are EL designated, but they're not receiving services. Other students are designated and are receiving a lot of services. So a single figure is not as helpful to understand the need. But looking at previously, I think we're up about 30 students from last year to this year, roughly. I can get an exact number for school board if it's
Could
helpful.
you also provide us the percentage of the WIDA breakdown of those students? Like, how many students are at level 1 versus level 2?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Sorry, so are we not meeting the needs of any of the 130 students?
No, that's not accurate.
Okay, so we're meeting some of these students' needs.
We're meeting most of the student needs, or more than half, but, I didn't do the breakdown of how many kids were not in compliance. The DESI designates it by building. So they say these 6 buildings have compliance issues. So
And how many move-ins did you say we had this year that were ELs?
roughly, our increase is roughly between 20 and 30, but I can get an exact number for you.
Okay. Okay. I know. Does anyone else have any further questions? No. Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Okay. Back to my report. I am happy to announce that the Shepherd Regional High School Athletic Department and interscholastic sports teams received recognition from the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, known as MIAA. The Chapel Hill Regional High School boys basketball team was selected as one of the recipients of the 2023 MIAA Team Sportsmanship Award. The award was presented at the Tsongas Center at UMass Lowell in March. Congratulations to Coach Mike Raposa and the Shepherd Hill Regional High School boys basketball student athletes. And I included a picture of them receiving the award at Center Court on that evening. And then my last item, we're waiting for an extended guest for that item, as I indicated in my report. But, so that concludes my report at this time.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to public comment. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Sure, why don't you come on? We have a student first. So for public, yep, you can have a seat next to Ms. Pansek. So for public comment, you just want to state your name and the town that you're from.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Slovo. I'm a junior from Shepherd Hill, and I'm from Charlton. As a member of the football and track teams, as well as the National Honor Society in Stuco, I feel that the school has given me what I put into it and more. Through my extracurriculars, I have made many friends and gained experiences I would have never had otherwise. If the Dudley override doesn't pass and athletics are cut, many students, including myself, would be devastated. Many of my peers have already been affected by the budget cut that happened last year, specifically those who were in French classes wishing to finish off their education in that language. They were unable to do so due to the classes being cut. If something as major as athletics were to be cut, it would affect many students' lives negatively, and I'm sure that many of them would transfer in order to continue their athletic careers. Overall, with the Dudley override, what you're really voting here is not only the student population's well-being and happiness, but also the future of your community, as the results of this vote may dictate how students choose to continue their careers. So please choose wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bless you, Olivia.
Bless you. Mr. Sage?
Stephen Sage, Charlton. And in light of the previous comments, I have thoughts on another aspect of if this budget does not pass in, or the override does not pass in Dudley. This is an article that was sent to me by my wife Nancy. It's something she saw online, Building a Better Brain Through Music, Dance, and Poetry. To make sense of difficult science, Michael Kofi Eason often turns to art. When he struggles to understand the immune system or a rare disease, music and poetry serve as an anchor. It helps calm me down and actively choose what to focus on, says Essen, a second-year student at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Essen, who was born in Ghana, also thinks his brain is better at absorbing all the science because of the years he spent playing the trumpet and studying Afrobeat musicians. There has to be some kind of greater connectivity that art imparts on the brain, Essen says. That idea that art has a measurable effect on the brain and its structure has support from a growing number of scientific studies. Creativity is making new connections, new synapses, says Ivy Ross, who is vice president of hardware design at Google and co-author of the New York Times bestseller, Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us. Ross co-wrote the book with Susan Magsaysman, director of the International Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Magsaysman says art's effect on the brain is most dramatic in children. Children that are playing music, their brain structure actually changes and their cerebral cortex actually gets larger. In Your Brain on Art, Magsaysman and Ross describe how a person's neural circuitry changes in respect to activities like learning a new song or a new dance step or how to play a character on stage. They also explain why a growing number of researchers believe that changes result in a brain that is better prepared to acquire a wide range of skills, including math and science. Music, dance, drawing, storytelling, all of these have been part of a human culture for tens of thousands of years. As a result, we're really wired for art, Magnuson says. And when we make art, she says, we increase the brain's plasticity, its ability to adapt in response to new experiences. Children who engage in arts are better learners, Ross says. Students with access to art education are 5 times less likely to drop out of school and 4 times more likely to be recognized with high achievement. The arts also teach the brain skills that it's unlikely to get in a classroom, Ross says. I was a dancer for like 12 years, and I really think it gave me a sense of form and negative space, she says. Those brain circuits probably helped helped in her wide-ranging career, she says, which includes designing jewelry that's part of the permanent collection at the Smithsonian. Dancing also seems to improve mental health, she says. Even just 15 minutes of dance reduces stress and anxiety, she says, noting that the activity causes the brain to release feel-good hormones like endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine. The link between arts and academic achievement has been noted by educators for many years, but it is only in the past couple of decades that technology has allowed scientists to see some of the changes in the brain that explain why. In 2010, for example, scientists used functional magnetic resonance imaging to show that professional musicians had a greater plasticity than non-musicians in the hippocampus, an area involved in the storing and retrieving information. The arts provide children with the kind of brain development that's really important for building strong neural pathways, including pathways involved in focus, memory, and creativity. Essen, the medical student, may have been using some of those pathways when he found a novel way to study difficult concepts in chemistry. I wrote poems about acid-based reactions, he says with a laugh. Oh my God, just so nerdy. Yes, I know my time is probably up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you had something to add afterwards, like, I just want to give you a chance to wrap it up.
Yeah. I was at I actually watched a Board of Select Persons meeting in Charlton and was very dismayed when I heard 3 to 4 out of the 5 indicate that they had no confidence in the voters of Dudley that they were going to be passing this override.
Can you clarify that you heard 3 to 4 out of 5 selectmen?
Of the select persons felt that, well, it's rarely ever passed in Dudley. It's probably not going to pass again this time, overrides, based on their feeling about what has happened in history. And that's basically what they expressed and what I absorbed from watching the video. It disappointed me a great deal to hear that. I would hope that the residents of Dudley will look deeply, and because the arts, the sports, are so much more important than people give credit to it. It relieves stress, anxiety, creates better achievement, and those are the things that are on your major cut list if the Dudley override does not pass. The arts are gone, the sports are gone, teachers are gone, and as I said at a previous meeting at Dudley with the Dudley Select Board and a joint meeting with you folks, if I was a family looking to move into Charlton or Dudley in the future, if this override does not pass and the support of the school systems is not there, then I would choose to move elsewhere. I would not look at this community as a viable place to raise a family. And that's how I feel. So I hope Dudley comes through. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to share? Please come forward.
Thank you for the extra time.
Hello. Sorry. My name is Sophia Pawlowski, and I'm from the town of Dudley. So I know Olivia from show choir. We've been in fantasy and illusion together. Those are the two groups that currently exist in our department. And I didn't really know Olivia that much before then. Like, I think I've heard her name a couple times, but once I got to know her, I've like the music department has truly like made me feel comfortable around every person in the group, especially Olivia. Anyways, but I just want to open with that because she's sitting right across from me. But, so I just had a presentation today in my AP Lang class, and it's like English and speaking and speeches. But, so we had to give a presentation about this book that we're reading called Grapes of Wrath. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but personally it's not my favorite. But I was assigned a chapter about this third-party perspective about the story, and they were talking about how as the migrants are moving to California during the Dust Bowl, not only were they searching for basic everyday needs like shelter, food, and water, they were also searching for like a meaning to their life, like pleasure and satisfaction. And a lot of the chapter talked about how they use music and storytelling in movies and cinema, and how language and music would just bring people together, and they would create this bond between people that people never really thought that they had. And I think that is quite applicable in today's society, especially from COVID and grief and loss and tragic accidents that happen throughout our community. And I think something that has brought me to become a better person is through connecting with others through something that we didn't know we had in common, which is music, at least in my experience as a student here. I've done show choir for 7 years. Just this year I was a singer in the marching band, which I don't know how that makes sense, but it did this year. But something I've learned was, I've mentioned this at a meeting a couple months ago, is like basic communication skills, like public speaking, doing things that I am really anxious and scared of doing. And I think that taking something like this, like something like music and certain classes that I have an interest in, would just rob me of the pleasure that I am seeking in life. And I would be set back a few years to gain whatever experience I'm searching. So I'm just hoping that people will make the right decision to grant that for their children and the children that come after them, or any friends that are moving into Dudley for whatever reason. But I just wanted to put my thoughts out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else that would like to speak? No. We going back to the superintendent's report?
Can I just say something before we get too far?
Sure.
I just wanted to recognize on that first item and thank the Brochu family for that donation publicly. I thought that was a nice thing for them to donate, so I figured they should at least be recognized rather than grouped together, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Do you need to go back to your?
No, Coach isn't here yet.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure who that was. Got it. All right, and we will move on to new business then. So for A, we have the updated the district curriculum accommodation plan, Principal Desto and Coordinator Herman.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? I just want to say great job to the kids out there. That I got a little choked up, not gonna lie, and I'm not a music person or certainly an athlete, but that was really good. So congratulations to you guys. So I'm Jen Desto, principal of Mason Road School.
I'm Heather Harriman, Special Education Coordinator at Charlton Middle School.
Heather and I, along with our peers of the administrative team, have gotten together to talk about some things that we just wanted to revamp in our paperwork and some of our resources and materials for not only us, but for our teachers. And one of the things that we talked about as a collective group was our DCAP accommodation plan, which is the district curriculum accommodation plan that is an absolute necessity per the Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 38.5, that requires us to adopt and implement a DCAP plan within our public schools. So we did get together. Heather and I took on this task, and we've met many times. We've looked at different resources, different schools to come up with the plan that you guys have in your packet.
And, the last revision, as you're aware, was made in May of 2018. And since then, we've had a lot of initiatives in the district, especially more recently, the Universal Design for Learning, So we worked together to create a document that was really consistent with our current practices as well.
So as I said, we did research I looked at different exemplars, looked at how other school districts kind of put their DCAP plan together. And one of the things I think from at least our lens is that, a lot of us came from the classroom, a lot of us worked in different capacities in the school district, and we really just want to have something that we can take, have, and access as often as necessary. Hang it on our walls, put it on our desks. And one of the things with the DCAP is we want it to be very, very user-friendly. That way teachers don't have to second guess or go looking on the internet. They can print it out, tape it up, and put it on their walls. But we did put this DCAP, again, it's kind of recreating it. We didn't reinvent the wheel. We just fine-tuned how it all came together, looking at the accommodations that we want to see teachers do on a daily basis to support all students, not just a specific group, not just special ed, ELL, for any child that needs it at any time. It doesn't have to be a consistent need. It can be, one time this particular content is a little difficult for a student, so they just need something different to help show their understanding of what the teachers are teaching. So we want to see, the DCAP plan is really put into place to make sure that we see students meet with some level of success in mastering the content.
And it offers
Sorry.
strategies for educators, accommodations, and instructional support for students. And the accommodations are outlined under 3 domains. So we split it up into the academic instructional supports, behavior supports, and staff supports.
Yep, and a lot of it, again, if you look through the DCAP plan, it is very consistent with a lot of them are just best teaching practices. A lot of it, if you go into a classroom, you'll see teachers do this anyway. However, if we ever have a new teacher come into the district who maybe is pretty new, doesn't have as much experience, and questions, geez, is this okay to do? Yes, of course it's okay to do. You don't have to ask. You don't need permission. You can do it absolutely 100%. We always want to do whatever we can to meet student needs. Again, some of these accommodations are as simple as providing a study guide to a student who's having, I can think of my own son, math is not his favorite, that's okay, but there's some things that his teacher is doing for him that is perfect to meet his needs at meeting with some level of success. Of course, he has to put the work into it, but she's doing what she needs to do to help him be the best that he can be and get the information into his little brain so he can produce and be able to show his understanding of the content. So we put together this DCAP plan, and we submitted it to the administrative team so everybody could put their eyes on it, make some changes, adapt, put things in, take things out, and we feel that we came up with a final document that we'd like to share with our teachers and get the ball moving. And from one that we had back in May of 2018 that I think was like 17 or 18 pages, now down to 7. So, and I do also know that our previous DCAP plan, it was very well done. Like, there's no question about it, but it did focus a lot on the referral process and a lot of special ed elements, which is fantastic, but that's a whole different document series that we have put together for our staff. So this is really focusing on every single student, regardless of whatever their needs are. These are different accommodations teachers can do in the classroom to meet their needs.
How about I entertain a motion to accept the district accommodation plan?
Well, my question was gonna be regarding that, so I don't wanna make a motion.
It's not a requirement.
Oh, it's not a requirement,
but
okay.
If you want to do it,
No,
we
that's fine.
certainly always welcome an endorsement, yeah.
So we'll have questions, go ahead.
Is this at a stage where you're asking for feedback from your teachers? Because I imagine that's part of this. So-
It came back from the administrators. So this is all stuff that we put together collaboratively. We really took a lot of what we had in our previous one, and then we looked at other district exemplars. There might have been something really unique in a different district that we thought, this is perfect for what our teachers can do. But a lot of it is really just good teaching practices. I don't believe at this time we were gonna look for teacher feedback, but if that's a recommendation, we certainly can. But I believe that we are kind of ready to go and give this to them. There's a lot in there.
Right, that's why I was looking to see if they had feedback to give it to you, because rather than have to finalize it, revise it,
Yeah.
finalize it, revise it, we seek feedback on all of our policies. Why wouldn't we seek feedback on something that they're gonna have to implement?
Member Terry, it's a great question. This is the type of document that's a continuous loop of feedback. So it's not something that's etched in stone, and this is the only thing that they can do. We're really talking about providing access points, engagement, as it says within this particular document. And so it's a continuous feedback loop. There's no requirement that a teacher follow bullet number 3, 4, and that's the only thing that they're going to do. So that's why it does need to be updated on a regular basis, and that's why it traditionally doesn't have a school committee endorsement, because you need to be able to edit it along the way without having to bring it back to school committee every time you make an edit. But it really needs to be a living document. Just like anything curriculum related needs to be a living document. It requires that ongoing feedback and loop as it's put into practice.
It just hasn't been updated, you said, since
2018.
18,
Well,
right.
and one of the things, just to piggyback on what Mr. Lamar said, is that there are teachers that will come to us, and I'm sure to all administrators, and say, oh my goodness, I tried this. Look at how minuscule this seems to be on paper, but it worked wonders for this student. And we were able to put it in here because we felt that that's totally appropriate, that anybody can do it. So we are getting that feedback all the time to be able to bring it to our team to say, hey, this is, what do you guys think? Would you do it at the high school? Would you do it at the middle school? Because we want it to be consistent.
I guess to kind of touch upon that, I guess the concern would be if you've taken so much out of it and the teachers haven't seen what you've taken out of it, then I feel like.
We took a lot of the referral process out of it, which is a lot of, it ends up turning into a special ed element. We had there was a lot of IST paperwork and IST process in that is its own referral process. It didn't need to be in this document in order for it to be.
Can you just explain ISP to them?
The instructional support team. So that's our MTSS, which is when we have a concern for a student, teachers fill out certain paperwork, the team comes together. We talk about all different interventions, which is really important for our budget, because this is where we look to see if students need tier 2 intervention. Do we need to go a little further? We look over a period of 6 to 8 weeks to determine, when we come back to the table, is this child not responding to the supports? Do we need to do something different? If we need to do something different, what is that? Do we need more time? Or do we need to refer them to special education?
So the one document that's being modified has been modified into a few different documents. So is it safe to assume that most of the material is the same, it's just been moved into different?
I think to be clear, the document that we changed, the May 2018, is redundant of what we already have in our IST referral process. So we're just saying it in two different in two different venues, but it's all the same thing. This is very specific to every single teacher, but during our IST process, it's not, all the teachers are gonna use it if they need it, but it's not for all students.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, sorry.
Is this a document that is utilized and expected to be utilized by parents as well as teachers too? Is this available to parents?
It'll be available on the website, of course, and we'll have it, within our schools, and I'm sure teachers will be sure to share this with parents to say, these are things that we're doing with our students. I'm not really sure if we would expect parents to have to implement those things, but I think it's really good for parents to know that if, they have a student at home that's kind of struggling with some areas, that you can reference this and say, geez, did you try doing this? Did you think about this?
The only reason I ask is because when I've gone into an IEP, sometimes it always starts by the parent suggesting what their concerns and what their ideas are.
Yep.
And when you're going through it for the first time, you don't know. You're going to the school for help because you don't know what to do for the child that
Absolutely, yep.
needs an IEP. So sometimes looking over this might say, this might work or this might not. Maybe, and sometimes I've asked the teachers or whoever's involved in the meeting, what would you suggest? And we've determined, no, that's not gonna work for her or him, or yes, I like that idea. But it has also come to my attention that some things have been removed that are necessary for some students, such as access to the BCBA. And I know that teachers out there have asked for that, and it's really being reserved for special ed, not so much someone that's being evaluated. So that's why it's coming up.
I'll let Heather Harriman kind of talk to that from the special ed lens.
Yeah, so access to the BCBA isn't something that all students necessarily have. Is it available through some type of referral process? Yes, but we do have a referral process for the BCBA to be involved. but because of the nature of their being a special education service provider, there is an element of consent that we need for that to happen. We do, because every building has, school adjustment counselors or psychologists. Those are really the people that, are available on a daily basis, where our BCBAs, we have 2 district-wide, are not at the building every single day, and so they're not part of the DCAP.
And I think too, if I can just piggyback on you with having the BCBA, like, it requires data. Because if we have kids that are just acting up, or they just have some behavior things going on, and we just immediately run to that BCBA, that's just unrealistic, because we have a district of how many students, they all come with their strengths and their weaknesses. But the BCBA, we can't just call and say, little Tommy is refusing to go to class. What are you gonna do? What can you do about it? It's, okay, we've noticed on this day at this time, it's every Monday, every Friday, we know it kind of correlating with home. We're working with our school psychologists, our adjustment counselors, but now it's going a little bit more above and beyond that. But we have all the data to support, and then send it to the BCBA as another tier level, because she might come back and say, we really need to bring this to the IEP team and see where we need to go from here. At least that's how I kind of interpret. I mean, they're wonderful, wonderful people, and I know if we were to say, hey, when you have a second, can we pick your brain? They do the best they can, but again, there's 2 people for a district of 7 schools.
Sorry, I'm gonna steal it again. So that's kind of 2 points I want to make. One is that a parent might not know that's even available in the district if it's not listed. And 2, to echo what everyone's already said tonight, the fact that we keep taking resources away from our district time and time again, we're just straining all the positions that we currently fund. And people are going to eventually not only move out of our district, but leave our district that are employed here, because they're completely at max capacity with their caseloads. And so what I hear is these BCBAs don't have the time in the day to possibly meet the needs of those that haven't qualified for it yet, which is the point I made at the forum the other day. We're constantly going to put things on the back burner until it becomes a bigger issue and it needs to be dealt with. So that's just my concern.
I think the way I interpret it is the BCBA is a special education service provider typically. So we don't have special education teachers or speech therapists or OTs on the DCAP either. So I just feel they fall under that same umbrella.
I'm just gonna kind of carry along as if you were having that conversation with me. But some of these, looking at it kind of quickly, trying to interpret, hearing what you're saying, seems like a very important document, but some of these are behaviors. And so this is a change to a behavior. And as I understand it, a BCBA is a behavior specialist. And so we're not incorporating a behavior specialist in our district, but we are making behavior changes for students. That seems concerning to me.
So all classroom teachers have some level of responsibility for classroom management. So the DCAP are strategies that, just as if a teacher has concerns about some academics, right? Maybe a student needs graphic organizers, they need, some small group support. Those are interventions that a classroom teacher would implement, per the DCAP. So it's the same thing for behavior. If there's a student, we have actually a lot of students at Charlton Middle School that are general education students that have a student success plan. If they, need some support behaviorally, and those are often successful through general education, and that's usually through the general education teachers and often the counselors within the building, without rising to the level of the BCBA. Typically, when all of those are implemented and there is not success, then that's when we would go to the next level of the BCBA. So it's not to say that we wouldn't, but it's not part of DCAP.
So, as somebody who actually read all 16 pages of the DCAP prior, the thing that I do like about the previous DCAP is it does go through the instructional support team process. So I think having that on the webpage would still be good. I don't think the teachers need it in their packet. So I think this is a really good streamlined version where it just shows the accommodations that you can implement that we would do for almost anybody, right down to using positive behavioral supports, which you don't need a BCBA for that. All the teachers should be using PBS with UDL. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you streamlined it, it's now all on accommodations because modifications of content would take an IEP.
Correct. Madam Chair, I just want to share, the DCAP is a first level of how do we accommodate students within our school, all students, to provide access. If a student is using everything within this DCAP to access the curriculum and to express who they are, then we have a misstep. So it's to provide you some guidance, it's a tool to provide you some guidance of some things that you can try and intervene. And these aren't things that necessarily require an immediate communication with the family. Now, we want the families to work with you, especially if you have an extensive plan that you develop for that particular student. But as you get into services for students, which we have every mechanism in the world to get to those services, to BCBAs and other service providers, we have all the systems in place for that to go. But this is the first level for all students within our particular district. Again, if a student's accessing everything that's written in here, then we've done a disservice for that student. This is just a tool with pieces in it for people to refer to, that we can all be on the same page as what accommodations we might be able to use.
I feel like that comes before the IST process. Like,
Can we just explain? So
Yes.
I think one of the concerns you have, Ms. Terry, is that it might say implement a behavior intervention plan. A behavior intervention plan can be something that a teacher does. It doesn't need to be a behavior specialist that does that.
We might make them at the elementary level. For
Right.
example, we have a little boy that has difficulty on the bus. Well, it's not every kid, it's just him, so we made him little puzzle pieces that match the shape of a bus. And after he gets all pieces that create that bus, we give him some kind of a praise, a break, something, a preferred activity or reward. But it's not all the kids that need that. And again, hopefully it's short term, that we can change that behavior on the bus, so that way he doesn't need his chart anymore, and we are smooth sailing moving forward. So it's, hopefully it's a short term thing, but like Mr. Lamar said, if it ends up becoming something that's so intense and we need to add more and more and more, then this child's name should definitely be in our instructional support team. We should be monitoring their progress, we should be looking at what they need, and ultimately, if all those supports fail, then we really should be referring them.
Right, and I think too, it could be involved at the middle and high school levels. You could have the assistant principals involved in a behavior intervention plan.
Of course.
And that happens a lot at the high school and middle school levels. And even the principals at the elementary levels would get involved in that type of plan. But like they said, once it gets to the need rises, they will certainly bring in the BCBA.
Yeah, because that's when it goes into child find.
Right.
Okay, I just didn't know this was a smaller, that a behavior intervention plan could be a small process
Simple as a bus
versus,
ride. Yep, or as big as
Why are we not having
complete
them?
meltdowns, refusal to do work, throwing whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So.
okay.
I think the important part in the process, like you said, is that it's the collection of data. So that when you move to needing more, you have that data to support that need. And that helps the
Especially if we can't
parents.
interpret it, if it's, if we're finding that it's not the same time of the day, or it's not the same subject, or it's just random, like a roller coaster, then that would be more information to bring to our instructional support team to say, we really need to go further for some more expertise in this
Right.
particular behavior to see what we can do.
Part of the amendment to the Mass General Law was to really involve our school councils in this process. So I'm wondering if we can bring it back to our school councils and just talk with them, there's teachers, there's parents on there, about what they think about this and how would they want to access that information and what more resources they may need.
Yep.
And how they can advocate for their own child. So, yes.
I just have a question about like the access part of this because, and this is like for all students, so like accommodations specifically making like curriculum easily accessible and effective for students, and like the access part of it, like digital media, would that mean we have to pay for more Chrome carts and stuff like that? Because like even at Shepherd Hill where we have multiple Chrome carts on each floor, and I'm lucky enough to have my own computer, not every student has one, and like days where I don't have mine, like the Chrome carts are completely empty. So would we have to pay for more? And not to mention the fact that Chrome OS updates every year, so our Chrome carts are eventually going to be like inaccessible because of the updates.
No, I hear exactly what you're saying. No, the whole point wouldn't be for everybody, because again, we're looking at individual students, what they need in order to access the content. So let's say you're in history class and you're having a tough time auditorily listening to the teacher. Well, she's able, and again, this is just good teaching practices. She's giving you a choice, whether you can listen to me give the lecture, or here, go on this Chrome card, you can read it, listen to it, whatever you need to do, but that Chrome card's, that book's gonna stay there. You're not taking it with you for every class, because you might just need it in history. And again, using the UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, that's what we want our teachers to be able to do regardless. It shouldn't have to go on a plan, it should just be done naturally for any student.
I would say too, like this year, I know that some of our fifth graders had to read a book, Hatchet. And they had they love that book. And they had the option that, you know, it was, you need to read this chapter of Hatchet. Well, you could read it, or if that's really not something that's easy for you to do at night, you can go and listen to the YouTube of it. So, I mean, just providing those options for kids just kind of differentiates that curriculum for them. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have any more questions? Thank you for all your.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Great, and we'll move on to the school committee resolution for the universal lunch. Superintendent Lamarche?
Madam Chair and School Committee, this is something that has been going across our Commonwealth, and school committees have been passing a resolution in support of universal meals for all. There are two acts relative to this, House 603 and Senate 261, which I did take the liberty of attaching those to you. Attaching those to this resolution. So I looked at other district resolutions and created this one for Dudley Charlton Regional School District. Obviously, it's open for, this is yours, so it's open for editing if you want to edit it or change it. And I am happy to share that the House budget, which came out, which we'll talk about during budget, came out, and in there is money for universal school meals as a permanent fix. Permanent investment for our state, so it's moving forward, but I thought that we, as a committee and as a school district, which I'd like to call this the resolution in favor of universal meals for all, but I'd like to call it the Pauline O'Coin resolution in favor of universal meals for all. But I thought it would be in the best interest of us as a community to throw our endorsement behind this as well. As I shared with you when I attended the legislative get-together, this was probably the one unanimous thing that they all talked about that they're getting behind. So I think it would be more than appropriate for the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee to pass a resolution in favor of this.
So moved.
I was just gonna say, if you'd like to move that, Pauline.
She wants to second it, too.
We have a second. Second by Jamie Terry. Great, I open it for discussion.
working on this for years, believe me.
30
Would
something?
you like me to read the resolution?
We weren't letting you leave until it came through.
Would you like me to read the resolution?
If you'd like to, sure. Pauline, would you like to read? Or whoever?
no,
No, go ahead. You can read it.
Resolution in favor, the Pauline O'Coin resolution in favor of the universal meals for all. Whereas on April 12, 2023, today, the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee voted unanimously to support the act relative to universal school meals, House 603 and Senate 261. Whereas the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee recognizes that food insecurity is pervasive and that it has a detrimental effect on the health and wellness of the students in our care. Whereas access to good nutrition reduces school absences and elevates student performance. Whereas the federal government provided free meals through school year 2021-2022, typo, and the Commonwealth continued free school meals for the school year 2022-2023. Whereas we believe that the school meals are the ultimate foundational cornerstone that underpins all students' ability to access the education they deserve. Whereas food insecurity rates in Massachusetts remain significantly higher than pre-pandemic levels and may rise more with the end of federal support programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee join others in urging the Massachusetts State Legislature to make free school meals permanent, directs the Executive Secretary to the school committee, transmit official copies of this resolution to the following state legislative delegations: State Senator Ryan Fatman, State Representative Peter Durant, and State Representative Paul Frost. Obviously, there's a one typo in there that needs to be
That's
fixed,
okay,
yes.
we can fix that. Do we have any comments or questions? No? want to say anything, Pauline?
I'm just happy because that was my philosophy for years, that all students should get their meals free. It's an important part of your education.
Great. Okay, if there are no other questions, let's go for the vote. All those in favor? And we did pass that unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move on to the report of the Director of Finance and Operations and the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, Director Matthew and Chair O'Coin.
Okay, we met on Monday, and we did discuss the overall budget, and the district's still awaiting the final House budget numbers, but today the Ways and Means budget came in, and I did note that there were two proposals that we're going to like. Was the bus transportation. They put in for 100% reimbursement, and the proposal for the universal free lunch, that they want to make that permanent. And then on April 5th, the town of Charlton had a joint finance committee and board of selectmen meeting to discuss the FY 2024 budget, and the consensus vote was to recommend 1.9 M assessment increase for the district for FY 2024. But that still means that the district will still need to reduce the operating budget by $600,000 to achieve that level of assessment for Charlton. So we still will have to decrease it. And most important, our Dudley's override has to be passed on April 25th. And then last evening was the forum, and one of the frequent questions, and we did discuss that in our budget meeting, that is addressed is how the ballot question is written in comparison to how the budget will be utilized. The ballot question was required to be listed as a single question for all future funding, and the only way to do that was by increasing the operational override for one purpose for 1 year, and then repurposing it, those same dollars, to another repurpose in the future. The Prop 2.5 override did not allow for a breakdown for each year to be specified on the ballot. So that's why it was just under one question for the 2.5 override. And Rich, do you have anything else to add to our meeting?
No, I think that pretty much covers our meeting on Monday with Budget and Finance Subcommittee. We did have Selectman Coronas from Charlton join us, and it was nice to have a representative from government at our subcommittee meeting and engage in a little conversation as well.
Thank you. Any question?
I do have a question. I think, and if the people at the meeting can share with me if I'm wrong on this, I think their question about the question on the ballot was not about that it was grouped together. It was that, why didn't we put some part as the override and then debt service the other part? That was some of the main concerns that people had.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And what would have solved that is back in the fall when we voted for the roofs, they should have had another question under there for a debt exclusion for the roofs, which they didn't. People were under the impression that we voted to how we were going to appropriate the money for the roofs, but we didn't. We just voted to approve the renovation of the roof. Am I right,
The vote in September, actually, all it did was authorize this school committee, this Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, to issue debt.
Right,
It
right.
had no mechanism, nor would it have been appropriate, because it
Right.
was a district special election, for there to be a question about how the town would finance
Finance.
that debt once it was incurred by this
Right.
committee.
Right,
So,
Because that's not our decision to make.
correct.
That's on the towns to make that decision.
That's correct. And, and the question would need to go on a town ballot. That ballot in September was ours only, as well as obviously the state primary.
Right. So both towns were voting on that
Yeah.
ballot? Okay. Does anybody have any questions right now?
I'm gonna ask a question. So you said what the Ways and Means came up with. When's the next point that we want to look and see if the budget remains?
the House, the final budget, right, Rich, on that?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that as part of the
Okay.
FY '24.
Oh, sorry.
if that's
Okay,
with the committee.
perfect.
'Cause we didn't discuss that, we were just waiting for
Apologize,
the
yeah.
Do we have-
numbers, which we didn't get. Rich thought we'd get them today, but they didn't. It just was the House, Ways and Means.
Okay. Do we want to move on and update the,
Or if you want to go out of order.
Is Coach Costas here?
oh,
Yeah,
she's
she is.
here. Oh, yes, so why don't we
Sorry.
take
I
a
was looking
moment and
down. I
then
didn't see it.
we will go back to the superintendent's report and then come back to this.
I didn't see Coach Costas come in.
Sneaky.
Fast. Going back to the superintendent's report, I had one more item. As you recall, I was sharing about our athletic department has received some incredible recognitions from MIAA, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association. This item we were saving until the honoree arrived, and the honoree is here.
Do you want to have her come sit?
I was going to start, and then I was going to introduce
Sure.
Athletic Director Scanlon.
Okay,
after,
perfect.
Okay? The Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, MIAA, has recognized our cross-country, winter track, and track and field coach. No, it's not three separate people. It is one person. Coach Nicole Fossas as the Massachusetts Women Athletics Distinguished Service Award for 2023. Coach Fossas is truly deserving of this recognition and provides more than coaching to her student athletes at Shepherd Regional High School. She is extraordinarily gifted at getting the best out of her athletes with her unassuming approach, which should be a master class for other coaches. Her passion for running is only surpassed by her passion for her athletes. Coach Fossas will be recognized during the Massachusetts celebration of Girls and Women's Sports Day on Friday, April 28th, 2023, at the Great Hall at Faneuil Hall in Boston. I wish her congratulations, but I also at this time invite up the athletic director for Shepherd Regional High School, Mr. James Scanlon.
Thank you, Superintendent Lamarche. Thank you to members of the school committee for welcoming us tonight. First and foremost, for your support of our athletic programs in the district. I think obviously, as we've discussed, what comes ahead for the district, it goes without saying the importance of athletics for our student athletes in the district. So I thank you for your support on behalf of all of our students and our coaches, but more importantly, for allowing us this forum tonight to recognize Coach Nicole Fossas in this really impressive award that she has received from the state. As Superintendent Lamarche indicated, she will be recognized at the Great Hall in Faneuil Hall, but unfortunately, Coach Fossas will not be able to attend as she has her brother's wedding. So this is a great opportunity for us to recognize her publicly, and also we will be sending a contingent of students and her student athletes as well to Faneuil Hall to represent our female student athletes and also to accept the award on behalf of Coach Fossas. All of our coaches play an important role in our athletic program, of course, but when the opportunity arose to recognize Coach Fossas on a much higher level, we jumped at the opportunity. And it's something that, to provide a little bit of context, the Massachusetts Women in Athletics Distinguished Service Award is an award that's given out yearly by the MIAA and their Women in Leadership Committee. This is with distinction on behalf of girls' sports. This goes out to female student athletes and female coaches that celebrates the efforts of those whose contributions have had a lasting and profound effect on female student athletes. This is only my third year in the district, but I can tell you that Coach Foster has quickly become a trusted ally for me within our department. She is somebody that we can count on to do anything, go above and beyond for our student athletes and provide an exceptional and positive experience for them. And she truly is an exemplar. And I thought I was going to be the only one to use that word tonight, but somebody else did earlier, so I stole my thunder there. But she is truly an exemplar of what it means to be a knowledgeable, compassionate, and insightful leader for our students. So before Coach Foster, I think she had a couple of words to say here tonight, but before she comes up, I did want to share just a couple of accolades so you understand why she is receiving this recognition. We'll start with the success athletically, and Coach Foster started here almost 14 years ago, and she's been a lasting member of our athletic department and is also an employee in the district. So her contributions extend far beyond the track and the cross-country course. Within that relatively short period of time, her impressive record includes 8 league championships in 12 years. 2 of those years, her teams were runners-up. So 10 out of 12 seasons, her teams have been first or second in the league. She has earned 4 MIAA Central Mass championships. In total, her student athletes have captured individual championships in 7 league meets, 4 Central Mass championship meets, with additional runners that received individual awards and accolades as well. So that's not even to speak about her own personal successes as an athlete over the course of her long career. But finally, I would just wrap up with a couple of comments. I reached out to Coach Len Harmon, who has been her sidekick, and he is our boys cross-country indoor and outdoor track coach, to help me solicit some feedback from some alumni, parents, supporters, members of our community. And the outpouring was remarkable, and I think a true testament to what Coach Foster does and the impact she's had on our student athletes. So I just printed out a couple of quick things, just a sentence or two that really encapsulate who Coach Foster is, and I think it's important that she hears some of these words from her former student athletes, and is equally important for everyone else to hear this. So from a 2018 Shepherd Hill graduate, since 2015, I've developed an amazing relationship with Nicole as my coach, my mentor, and now a fellow coach. There are many attributes I could list to describe how amazing Nicole is, but there are too many to count. However, I do know that over the years, I have never seen Nicole's dedication, love, passion, and intensity waver. No matter the situation, she has supported her athletes to the best of her ability, at times going above and beyond as a coach and person. While her accolades are impressive, they do not begin to tell her story. I hope through the many athletes she has touched, we can continue to shine a light on all she has done for us. I'm forever changed by the lessons I have learned through Nicole, and I have no doubt she is deserving of this recognition. Another student athlete who graduated in 2015, Coach Foster welcomed me to the team and was genuinely invested in me from the start, not just as a cross-country athlete, but as an individual and a learning and growing teenager. She saw capabilities in me early on that I wasn't able to see in myself. She encouraged me to step outside my comfort zone in many aspects, athletically, academically, and socially, to name a few. She challenged me to test my limits and see how far I could get as a runner, which ended up being much further than expected long term. Coach Foster was by our team's side the entire way and always celebrated our successes with us. Coach Foster is now part of the reason I am a teacher today. I speak for myself and for many of Coach Foster's other athletes when I say that she has had such a lasting impact on me and who I've become. I am largely the woman, teacher, coach, and leader I am today because of her lasting positive impact. So as we look ahead and the impact that interscholastic athletics have on our student athletes and the members of our community, I can't think of a better representative of what we offer and the impact that it has than Coach Nicole Foster. And so I'll welcome her up here to take my spot and hope you'll join me in congratulating her in being named the 2023 Massachusetts Women in Athletics Distinguished Service Award winner.
I just wrote a few things down. Don't worry, it's 2 pages. It's large print, though. I don't speak well publicly, so I always do better with a little sheet in front of me. I just want to thank Mr. LaMarche and the school committee for inviting me here tonight. I'm truly humbled. Over the 14 years, there have been a lot of people that have helped create what we have here at Shepherd Hill with the track and cross-country programs. It takes a village, and I have quite the village. I just want to briefly recognize 4 people that have sort of worked alongside me. First, Jim Scanlon, who works endless hours to make what we do possible. I spend hours in his office talking to him, planning, venting, sometimes just processing how we can be better at what we do. He always has time for the coaches. Practice will end at 5. I might leave here at 6, 6:30. We're coaches in the office. If I'm not sure how to handle something, I run it by him, and he's always has wise words. And he just moved into a new house, within the past few months, I think, and I'm not sure he knows what the inside of his new house looks like, because he's always here. I'll leave late, and he'll be here for hours longer. So next, I want to recognize Len Harmon, who has been my dear friend and coaching partner for 14 years. We have similar coaching philosophies and worldviews, and I couldn't do this job without him, and I wouldn't want to do it without him. When I'm stuck on something or not sure how to best help an athlete, I talk to him. His wisdom and insight are priceless, and his friendship is treasured. And not to skip over my wonderful husband, who was my first coaching inspiration and taught me the importance of making every athlete feel special, unique, and valued, no matter their talent. And he understands the importance of the job we do as coaches and the impact we can have and do have on these student athletes, and he understands the investment of time that it takes to do it right. And he picks up all the slack between the months of September and June, which is 10 months, so he pretty much picks up the slack. And last, but certainly not least, I need to recognize all the amazing athletes that I've had the privilege to coach over the years. Because of who they are, they make me look good. They give of their heart and soul to Shepherd Hill, and they are the best of Shepherd Hill. They allow me to see them at their best and at their worst. I'm often asked what my coaching philosophy is, and it's summed up in only a few words: love them well. If they know you care and have their backs, that makes all the difference. When they know there's an expectation of the culture and work ethic, they thrive. It is a privilege to watch these athletes grow over the 4 years at Shepherd Hill, many whom I coach 3 seasons a year, so we spend a lot of time together. And I get to, at the end of the 4 years, I always tell their parents, I know it's hard for you, but I do this every year, letting the seniors go that I've had for 4 years, basically all year long. And I develop, relationships with the families. But I also get to see the amazing things that they do when they graduate. They're the ones that make this job a privilege and an honor. I just want to say thank you to Mr. LaMarche and the school committee again, and thank you for the work that you all do.
Yes.
Coach Vosses.
Yes.
You were late because you had a meet today, so your opening meet for the spring, how'd it go?
Yes, we did.
How'd it go?
It went well.
Good.
We had 25 girls, they had 95 girls. But we scored, I think we lost 59 to 86. And we scored a lot of points with a lot of talent, and we just have a lot of wonderful human beings. And I think probably the highlight for me today was I have a freshman on the team, and she's done a little bit of triple jumping, but she really wasn't comfortable with it. And I said, hey, can you just do it in the meet, just sort of, it's gonna get you some experience. And she was like, yeah, okay. And she triple jumped and she fouled 3 times, but I pulled her aside and said, there's very few kids that would ever be willing to put themselves in that position. So you doing that, you're awesome, and you're talented, you're gonna be awesome. So to me, that was sort of the highlight of the meet for me. Not a good performance is, but that sort of summed up the meet for me.
Great.
Great.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to Director Matthews.
Thank you.
So you want to do D first? You said you were going to, no,
No,
you're
I
going
think
out
we just
again.
wanted to do that.
Sorry, my mind's still moving.
It's okay.
I got to slow my mind down.
So first and foremost, an update on the district treasurer's position. As school committee may recall, at its March 8th meeting, it voted to appoint Mr. John Clark as district treasurer effective April 1st, or March 31st perhaps. 6 hours, on March 9th, 6 hours after accepting the district treasurer's position, Mr. John Clark resigned, citing a highly personal conflict. The district's restructured some roles and responsibilities within the business office to alleviate some of the work of the treasurer, recognizing it needed to be done anyway. And as a result, Mrs. Carol Barron has agreed to remain in that role for the near future, and as a matter of fact, today sent a letter rescinding her resignation. So it's definitely a positive for the district, and we're very happy with that. It is certainly the best available option for the district. Second, an update with Green Communities in Charlton. We were authorized for 2 projects, both at Heritage Elementary School. First is lighting upgrades to go to LED lighting at the school. There's projected savings of, a net savings of $200 a month while we pay for those items on the bill. And ultimately, this will increase pretty dramatically to around $1,000 a month, which is very good news. I wish that the Green Communities would have been able to pay for the entire $163,000 project, but that wasn't the case. But we'll take what we can get, and we're very, very pleased that the town shared $90,000 with us for that particular project. And National Grid included $22,000 as well. Secondly is weatherization. The cost of the weatherization to the district will be a net of $4,808 after contributions from the Green Community Grant of $89,773 and National Grid of $12,781. Again, I would like to thank the town of Charlton for including us as part of their Green Communities planning. Initially, we were included in their numbers, but all of the projects went for town projects. In the last few years, we've been able to access the grant money, and we're very appreciative of that. And lastly is our annual health insurance renewal. Just a little history here. The district is entering its 5th year as a member for the Mass Strategic Health Group. As a founding member, it has certainly been a very good experience for Dudley Charlton. The group now consists of 8 total members for active employee plans, with an additional expansion potential for the upcoming year. One of the goals of the Mass Strategic Health Group has been to introduce innovative programs that are designed to improve access to appropriate care while trying to be fiscally responsible. In that vein, for the upcoming year, the Mass Strategic Health Group is pleased to announce it'll be utilizing HealthJoy to act as a concierge-type service for active members, similar to Retiree First for those on Medicare plans. It is hoped that by having a company that can easily provide to members real-time information about benefits, care options, and all of our available programs, there will be potential savings. As they presented across all 8 communities in the active plans, there's a potential to save $550,000 for Mass Strategic Health Group in the upcoming year. The Dudley Charlton specific plans, though, have faced a challenging year. There have been a few cases which have carried very large costs. The district and the group have stop-loss insurance to deal with these claims. But if the district were still standalone, on our own, self-insured, or premium-based, the rate increases faced for the upcoming year would have been very high. And we're not talking, 8, 9, 10% very high. We're talking 20 to 30% type very high. And the stop-loss insurance itself would have been outrageous in terms of the percentage increase. But again, because we have this collective approach with the Mass Strategic Health Group and the procurement of the stop-loss insurance between all Gallagher represented groups in Massachusetts and Connecticut, our activities are actually a very small data point within that whole pool of business. And that's to our benefit right now as we face this. These large expenses are not anticipated to come off the books in the near future. So by having HealthJoy, again, we hope to be able to conserve expenses and still, provide the appropriate care. But the district does need to be engaged in providing information to members about best practices to ensure a continuation of being conscious of understanding that we all share these expenses. The Insurance Advisory Committee met on Tuesday, April 4th, and voted unanimously to recommend a 5% increase to rates for fiscal '24. School committee is requested to approve this rate increase, which was the projected increase within the FY '24 budget. FY '24 will be the first year as a member of the Mass Strategic Health Group that the district plan rates are above what we were paying in fiscal '19. I think that's a remarkable statement to be able to make, and one of the evidence, one of the pieces of evidence that we have of how this committee and the district has sought to reduce expenses while providing the same level of service. For the most subscribed plans, the family plan of the standard plan, the rate in fiscal '19 was $1,921.83, and the proposed rate for FY '24 is $1,939.14. There is no price increase for fiscal '24 for dental and vision plans. And lastly, as a footnote, even though we're not talking about Medicare renewal at this point in time, the Medicare plans do have a rate cap through December 31st, 2025, which maintains the Medicare plan pricing lower than 2019. I ask school committee to approve the 5% increase to rates.
I entertain a motion.
Moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. Kelly, second. Is there any discussion?
Rich, what is the stop loss? Is it 150,000?
Yes.
Great. Yes.
Madam Chair, the only thing I want to add is, oftentimes when we're in education, as leaders, you have what you call, we refer to as your baby or something like that. This has been Mr. Matthews' mission since the 2017, 18, 19 year. And our district, as well as other communities, have clearly benefited from his investment of time and knowledge within this area, to the point where oftentimes I will hear that Mr. Matthews called upon to try to work with another community, meet with another community, what have you, but this is, it's really a pride and joy for Mr. Matthew, but it is for us as well as a district, and we really appreciate Mr. Matthews' incredible effort to keep this where it is today. And, it's not that he doesn't lose sleep over this sometimes, especially when you look at double-digit increases and things of that nature, but Mr. Matthew continues to shine in this area, and we should all publicly recognize him for that.
And thank you, Mr. Matthew, because it's thanks to him that we have this group.
Thank you.
All I did was ask a question, more than once, though.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Moving on to D, the continued discussion of fiscal year 2024, our principals and district administrators.
So, Madam Chair, our approach is a little bit different this evening. I know you've heard from me. I know other meetings have heard from me as well. I still sit in a position where this has been very, very complicated, time-consuming. You talk about losing sleep at times. I'm sure you have as a committee as well, because there are hard decisions. Regardless of where this goes, there will be hard decisions moving forward. So Mr. Matthews provided a report, but this evening I've asked the principals to engage with you as a committee. And really the direction that I was providing was, what does level service mean to you? Because that's really what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a level service budget. Nothing new and big and improving. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't try to continuously improve what we have. We always do that. That's our job. That's our mission. But we're not rolling out a brand-new program that would require a seed money or an investment. So the principals, part of their request was to talk about level service, and then also to share with you what the impact would be from their eyes and from their perspective moving forward. So I don't have I provided a speech in January to you as a committee. I presented the budget. I've gone through a lot. I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice around FY '24, but this is serious business, and this evening I'd really like the principals to come up and share with you before Mr. Matthew talks and shares his memo with you. So I don't know how they worked out their order. Okay.
Okay. Come on up.
While we're walking up, I will share that the weatherization project has been completed, and we've now moved to the LED light. Started today. So it was exciting to have National Grid come in.
Great.
Hello, everybody.
You gotta,
Oh, sorry.
people have to speak into the microphone, sorry.
Hello. When the elementary principals got together to talk about some of the impacts that the budget will have on us for next year, or has had on us for previous years since being here, it was really hard to come up with a single impact statement for the ways that budget decreases, if we have even a level service budget, will impact us in every one of our schools. There are just so many ways to list, and none of them are positive, for sure. One of the things that we think about the first when it comes to reduction of services, everybody plays such a critical role in our schools. Our staff members are there every day giving 110%. And the thought of having to reduce any staff members when we're already really stretched for class sizes, for providing all the services that kids need, whether it be academic, social, emotional, the whole gamut of services that we provide. When we're looking at some of the reductions that are being put forward, we're looking at really reducing some critical Tier 2 providers in our at the elementary level, where kids are learning their most foundational skills. And it's really hard to imagine that there's a possibility we might be reducing our most skilled teachers of reading, or the most skilled people to help staff members or new teachers or other people in the building with teaching reading. It's one of the most foundational skills that students have at this level. So to think about that is really a hard sell. Comparative to other districts, the infrastructure for things like curriculum, for instruction, for assessment, for dissemination of information in buildings is pretty lean in Dudley Charlton, meaning that most of the responsibility for all of that falls on the building principal. So we don't have assistant principals, we don't have coaches, we don't have specialists in our building. We kind of wear all of those hats and are expected to do all of those things. So reducing staff like reading specialists in the building who do help with a lot of that really will be not only impactful to the students that they have face-to-face time with every day, but also to run meetings to help teachers analyze and look at data to make research-based, evidence-based decisions around the supports that kids need in schools, that the meetings that we need to have to talk about what we can do with students. A lot of that comes from the staff that help us out, and that is going to come back on the principals too. So to find time for doing that data analysis, for helping teachers with data analysis, for running those meetings is a pretty serious impact to all of our buildings, I think. At least in my building, and I know in other buildings, we've all had reductions. Last year, I had to reduce 2 FTEs that were based on the enrollment, but at the time, we all know enrollment numbers change. In my building alone, my 4th grade classes are at 25, 26 this year, which is really busting at the seams. Mm-hmm. Having that many bodies in a 4th grade classroom routinely, it really taxes the system. When you're trying to fit the needs of 24 different little individuals, or 25 or 26 different little individuals, I mean, even just the furniture alone, to fit those big bodies of 4th graders, especially at this time of year, it gets really difficult. And it's pretty overwhelming for the teachers to be looking at that. And I think to think about numbers that could potentially grow to that level at grades 2, grades 3, potentially at the even younger grades, it's pretty hard to imagine what the impact of that would be. The last thing on my list that I have is thinking about, I just have observed over the last few years the real need to infuse high-quality instructional materials at every tier. So I know at Tier 1, we introduced CKLA, and that was, mostly grant. There was a lot of grant funding for that. And at all tiers, though, that takes care of ELA at Tier 1. We still need to look at math at the elementary level at a Tier 1. We need to look at science at a Tier 1. We need new social studies frameworks came out in 2018. We haven't even begun a discussion about that. So, curriculum-wise, and the need for high-quality instructional materials across that, we're not even close to providing students with the level of education using the high-quality materials that they are going to require and that they are going to need. And I know from my own standpoint in my building, having scientifically based programs for Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions did not exist when I came to Dudley Charlton in my building. I'm not sure what the situation was in other buildings. So trying to build that in with a budget that's already behind and hasn't really increased over the years, it's like, you know, I'm trying to find creative ways to get programs in and to make things work with really not a lot of money to work with there. So to move ahead in that respect, you know, we try to, it feels like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because, you know, we try to do things like we were able to get a part-time additional Title I person in my building this year, which was great, and that's Title I funded, but I don't have the money to get her the materials she needs to be able to do the job that she needs to do. So now we're splitting materials, and we're making it work. We're making it work. But we can't make it work forever. So that's a solution between now and June, but I need to find a more permanent solution for next year, which hopefully, you know, that additional position will be there. We don't know. But if it is, I need to find the way to get high-quality materials into the hands of that teacher to work with our neediest students. So, you know, all of these things have tremendous impacts on the daily life at school, on the education in the building, on the staff in the building. People are really pushed to their max, and to think that we might even be reducing that more, it's a pretty scary thought. And I know for the hats that I wear in my own building and the things that I have to do on a daily basis as a principal, to think that more is going to be put on that plate as well is a pretty scary thought too.
I can speak to the fact that, thank you, Kelly, because you're absolutely right. You've caught a lot of exactly what a lot of us are thinking. I can speak to the fact that this is my 5th year in the district as a principal. If I didn't leave for 2 years, this would be my 23rd year in the district. And I've seen our district, we've got a very famous saying, we work really hard with what little we have. And I think the teachers are definitely a true testament to that. They work endlessly, tirelessly, but there's going to become a point that they're going to burn out. And the point is going to come when they don't have anything else in their bags to use. There's no materials in their hands. There's no support down the hallway. They're going to burn out. And I think the fact that even in my years, I haven't added staff. We've moved staff to different locations within the district because the needs have been in those particular buildings. But variations of our registrations, every year it's different. This year we were pretty low in kindergarten. Next year we're already over 100 and it's April. So we don't know what's going to happen over the summer. In knowing that it's such a fluid kind of a elementary level schools and our needs, that the budget is just so critical, that if we don't have those resources or those supports in place, we're looking at a whole different ballgame. And our tier 2 support, if we don't have our reading specialists, we're just looking more at more special ed, and that's not really the route that we want to go with. That's not really the need. So
The hope is a good Tier 2 program will actually limit the number of special ed referrals that come up, and in the end, save money. But without the resources, I was having a conversation the other day with my new Title I teacher, and we don't have the materials for her. So she is doing with what we can find, and doing an outstanding job. So I just want to reiterate what Mrs. True said. As far as more things falling on us, and none of us have an assistant principal, we do have the special ed coordinator who is a wonderful resource, but isn't consistently in the building. The piece that I also worry about, if this doesn't pass, is losing an assistant superintendent who we rely on when we make a phone, when we have a struggle to call on. And a lot of those responsibilities and duties are going to fall on more than just the district office. It will come down. So not only will we be getting being expected to do more from our Tier 2 level, from our reading level, from the data collection level, we'll be expected to do more from the top down as well. Which of course we'll do, and I'm going to reiterate what Mrs. Desto said. I've been in the district for 23 years. 11 as a teacher and now 12 as an administrator. And the district does more with less. And that has kind of been the mantra since 23 years ago. This is not anything new. As people move on and retire, a lot of times those positions don't get filled. That's how they kind of level the budget. Well, we're at the point, we can't afford not to fill these positions. We've, as Mr. Matthews has said in the past, we've trimmed the edge. It's gone. Any cuts now it'd be part of the meat. It'd be part of really what we need to survive.
I'm gonna switch sides, so I'm not terribly awkward over there. I just want to echo everything that the other principals have said, but also to bring home back to the fact that right now we have reasonable-ish class sizes, and we have tier 2 people supporting our learners that need that extra little push at this grade level. This district has gotten very far on very little because of some extraordinarily talented educators you have working here. But if you are not able to keep the services that we currently have and we lose the tier 2 and class size goes up, then those classroom teachers who are already doing amazing things are going to have larger classes and less people to help them. And that is my greatest concern for our littles that just need the extra boost to get back on track, that haven't been identified with disabilities. They're just learning how to learn and need a little extra guidance to be ready for the next level. It's going to be really hard for our teachers with a larger class size and less tier 2 support, or if any, to help them. And that's going to affect students. And there aren't other coaches, as Kelly said, there aren't other administrators in the building, there aren't other people that we could cut that are extra. You cut them long ago. Not you personally, but this district. And I think that is my biggest concern for these little folks that just need just a year with Mrs. Kerouac. That's my biggest concern.
Thank you for painting such a grim picture.
Thank you.
Anytime. No, hopefully not.
We should take our mic.
Oh, goodness.
Of course you will. Of course you will.
We have a
All
limited
right.
time.
All right, the notes will go on the side.
Thank you.
All right, first and foremost, thank you very much for an opportunity to speak tonight. As you all know, I've been in the district now, this is going my 29th year, so I've seen quite a bit. I've been fortunate enough to be on the administrative team for the last 19 years. I can take you back to 2004, sitting around a table when we're talking about how we're going to envision what cuts will look like to meet the operating budget. And to take you back even a step further than that, I can remember in 2000 when the middle schools first came out, they had reading teachers at every level. They had foreign language at every level. And as the cuts became real, we started peeling all that stuff back to get us to a bare bone minimum of where we are right now. I'm proud to say that we have 83 staff members in our building that work tirelessly every single day to meet the needs of every child that they have in front of them. And it's definitely not easy because they need tools in order to meet the kids where they are at, especially right now coming out of post-COVID. But I will say, I think our number one responsibility as educational leaders is to provide as many educational experiences as we can for our kids that sometimes venture outside of the core curriculum areas. I'm happy to say that in our school, and I have some numbers for you right here, just in this past year, we have 136 students that take chorus in grades 5 to 8. We have 126 students that are involved in band. We have over 200 students that are involved with extracurricular activities that are either stipend or paid positions after school. Foreign language holds over 150 students right now as we speak. So these kids are lucky enough to be getting those experiences, and those are things that we pride ourselves on because it does help that middle school student grow, and it gives us an opportunity to look at the whole child.
Now, I also just want to quickly talk about Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 and what that looks like from a middle school level. We are fortunate enough to have 2 reading teachers at this point in time that provide interventions. We do have exploratory time periods and wind blocks built into a schedule where students can get additional help as they need it. But these schedules are jam-packed from a contractual standpoint, and our teachers are just straight out with what they can do and what they can provide for our students. Not the least of which, we always want to be cognizant of the fact that we want to give kids we want to give them voice and choice to what they want to be like as they grow up, because the years between 10 and 14 are very pivotal. They want to have an identity. They want to connect. And if we don't provide those opportunities for kids at the middle school level, I don't know what would happen as they go on to high school. The one thing I like to see is we've been that school. We've been that district where everybody wants to be part of. And we've prided ourselves on that. And as said earlier, we've had educators working tirelessly with less each and every year. And capacity and burnout is true, and it's real. And what happens eventually is people begin to look at other areas to go and teach where they think it might be better, for whatever the reason that it might be. So we have an obligation, not only as a community, but as a district, to be able to say, listen, it's time that we have to say that the rubber on the tire is grinded down to the rim at this point in time. And we need to look now really at what the future of education is going to look like in Dudley Charlton Regional School District, not just in Charlton Middle School, but everywhere. And I've been an individual who was lucky enough to go through this district as a student, and now I'm back here as an educational leader. And there's no better job in the world, quite frankly, when you think about when you have the capacity to help others in the community that you live in. So I'm going to leave you with the idea of this. I don't think there's an educator that I've come across in this district that is not willing to continue to roll up their sleeves and work hard to get where we have to be. But I would hope that our townspeople can see the need at this point in time. If we're going to evolve, it's got to be now. We've had a lot of years. We've had experienced, the cutbacks, but we have to think about tomorrow for our children. So I thank you for listening. Chris?
Thanks, Dean. We were comparing notes earlier today, and Dean did win the rock, paper, scissors game to go first. We have a very similar mindset and philosophy. But level service budget moving into next fiscal year really allows us to maintain our core academic and enrichment programs that are really essential to ensuring that kids can develop. Dean mentioned the window 10 to 14 years old. I've got a son who's in my middle school, which is pretty awesome for me. He thinks it's cool every now and then. But as a dad, I get to see him and his friends. I get to see my 9th grader at Shepherd Hill. I get to see my eldest daughter who came through the district at Hofstra University, who she is and who the younger two are because of experiences within our core program, within our enrichment program, within our co-curricular activities. We've got 150 plus students in chorus at DMS. We've got 210 plus students engaged in band. We've got 170 plus students engaged in athletics at the middle level. And I was fortunate enough to be at Shepherd Hill last night to see the Color Guard show for the middle school, for the high school, and also the winter percussion group perform. And having been very close to those students who are in those groups from Dudley Middle School, I identified something that I related back to when I was here in this building in 7th through 12th grade, that they all found a place to fit and to be. And we heard that earlier when Ms. Poplowski talked. They connect with others because of the programming that we have. When we sit down and talk about a budget and a number, we sometimes lose sight, and I'm speaking directly to the townspeople right now, we lose sight of the importance of the efficacy in our job to build and strengthen relationships in our children so they have confidence to go out into the world and become very productive citizens. If we are going to be faced with a reduction budget next year and we lose opportunities in foreign language at the middle level, we lose opportunities in co-curricular programming, we lose opportunities to put the kids on stage and to express their talents, if we lose opportunities to have the district-wide art show, all of these stipended positions, we'll find ways to get kids exposed, but they will not be at the level that our educators can provide. And for me, as a dad, that's a scary place to go because we're talking about competitive advantage. Dudley Charlton has always been a district that's had competitive advantage over others. If we want to slide back down on the competitive advantage scale, then that's what the town of Dudley is going to be realizing that they are ultimately responsible for. I'm not speaking just as a principal or just as a dad. I'm also speaking as a taxpayer in the town. And for me, this is absolutely essential that we maintain our core program, which is already strapped beyond belief. Our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our administrative assistants, our custodians, our cafeteria workers, our assistant principals, our admin team, we all work tirelessly and we grind to the bone. A situation for us when we're looking at additional reductions is going to put more and more stress on a system that is functional, that is engaged with improvement, that is engaged with innovation, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose those opportunities. I am realizing that I'm going to start going off on a big tangent, so I'm going to stop myself now. But please understand the impacts that level service budget has. It's already stretched, but we have a great system in place. A failed override is really going to be detrimental to our ability to develop and cultivate high-quality experiences for our kids, and we really owe that to them in our future. So that's all I have. Thank you.
So now I have the privilege of adding the last few brushstrokes on this bleak picture of what an unsuccessful override would look like here in particular at Shepherd Hill. So to be clear, just to reiterate in general terms, what level service would look like at Shepherd Hill, similar to what my colleagues have expressed, it's maintaining what we currently have. A level service budget would allow us to maintain current staffing levels, current course offerings and programs, as well as our current extracurricular activities, our music, visual and performing arts, and athletics. We would not be adding teachers, we would not be adding courses or any other extracurricular activities. The level service budget would simply be maintenance of the current Shepherd Hill experience. In the event of an unsuccessful override vote at Shepherd Hill, as has been discussed previously, we would be looking at a minimum of 8.0 FTE staff reductions. And to further illustrate that point, 5 of those would likely be classroom teachers, which would mean we would remove 25 course sections from the master schedule just from those 5 positions alone, which means those are 25 fewer places, essentially, to put students within the master schedule. In addition to the 5 instructional positions, we would also be looking at 3 non-teaching roles that would further erode ancillary student supports as well. Additionally, under consideration is the elimination of the department coordinator positions, which has been discussed in different contexts. To state the obvious, these department coordinator positions would eliminate the peer-to-peer instructional coaching that is critically important, so that it's not simply a top-down administrator-to-teacher approach, but rather teacher-to-teacher, teachers coaching other teachers. The elimination of these department coordinator roles would also hinder my ability, the assistant principal's ability, to really monitor instruction in classrooms every day. Our focus would understandably be preoccupied with daily management and operations of the building, and we wouldn't have as much time for instructional leadership as we'd like, which is where the department coordinators have played a critical role. We also need to make sure that our written curriculum matches the actual taught curriculum, and that's, again, where eyes in the classroom are really important through department leadership. We also are facing a self-study process in a couple of years for our decennial accreditation visit through NEASC, and department coordinators through the years have typically led the charge with that with the various self-study committees. Ultimately, we would be restricted in our ability to modify existing curriculum and or develop additional coursework. As Mr. Olson mentioned a little while ago, the elimination of the assistant superintendent position for teaching and learning would further create that gulf. in terms of instructional leadership. It's really important to connect the dots, and without that role and without the department leadership at the high school, again, instructional leadership would fall on the shoulders of the 3 building administrators. Arguably, the most detrimental consequences to the student experience at Shepherd Hill would be the reduction or elimination of the performing arts and athletics programs. To state the obvious, the consequences would include the loss of a well-rounded, broad-based educational experience, which is really crucial to adolescent development and, quite frankly, is the hallmark of any quality secondary educational experience. It would also be detrimental in that there would be a loss of springboard opportunities for students to secure college scholarships as a result of participation in athletics or the performing arts, as well as other successful post-secondary connections that those activities can lead to. I suspect that many students and families would consider leaving the district to participate in these activities elsewhere, which would then result in decreased enrollment and decreased funding moving forward. So essentially, students at Shepherd Hill would have fewer courses, fewer extracurricular options, and the overall experience would be far less enriching, and quite frankly, it would be a disservice to the students in the community. On a personal note, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we've spent much of this year, given that it's my first year as principal, I've spent this year developing relationships, and the faculty and staff have worked with me collaboratively to identify a vision for the future for Shepherd Hill, a positive vision for the future, a shared vision for the future. And this is especially the case with regard to the Shepherd Hill school building process that is underway. Anything less than a level service budget would really undermine the vision that we are establishing for the future here and erode the goodwill that's been established along the way. I sincerely hope that we can arrive at a budget solution that allows Shepherd Hill to flourish for another 50 years, because my hope is, my fear rather, is that if the override is unsuccessful, we're going to begin the dismantling of Shepherd Hill in the next 10 to 20 years. I'm deeply concerned about the impact of these cuts that would occur on the morale of staff who remain, who continue to be stretched. There are phenomenal educators here who continue to do more with less, and I know that will be the case regardless of what happens, but we hear a lot about the importance of mental health, not just for students, but for staff, and this is going to be certainly a factor that aggravates that, and so we want to be able to be mindful of the needs of our staff moving forward and understand the impact of what an unsuccessful override vote could lead to. I believe some numbers have been shared with the committee in terms of athletic participation as well as the visual and performing arts as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair, I know Dr. Ackerman also would like to participate.
So,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you, Principal Allen.
Thank you.
I just want to say, our principals have really captured a lot of the essence of the challenges that would be faced if a override wasn't successful. And while I may not have the depth or breadth of experience that Principals Olson and Desto and Packard have, in my 2.5 years here, I will say, and it's a testament to our staff, our principal, our leadership team, and our faculty, we've made a lot of progress, and it's progress that we certainly don't want to see not continue. So I'll start by saying, while I do know there's certainly more work to be done, our teachers and administrators have done a lot around grant work, curriculum adoption and development, evolution of building schedules, and the continued development of Tier 2 and Tier 3 initiatives. The number and the volume of work that everyone has done has been exceptional. If I could just take a moment and offer a couple of specific examples. So the first was with the Early Grades Literacy Grant with the adoption of CKLA and how successful that has been. The number of educators that have participated in this work, again, is a testament to the work ethic of the district. While I certainly don't want to share all of the detailed information because that will be coming from next month's Student Achievement Report, we've made remarkable progress in the area of elementary reading, and I want to make sure for all of our students that that continues. If we have a reduction in staff, as Principal True alluded to, it has a cascading effect in that we're asked folks that are already stretched to do more with less, and we're going to have increased class size and greater difficulty providing Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. At the middle school level, as you know, we had adopted new mathematical instructional materials, and we've been approved for our grant project to forward this work. I'd like to thank the principals of the middle school and the middle school math faculty for working forward to bringing this to light. If we do have a reduction, again, it makes it harder for these great curricular activities to continue. And in the end, the most impacted population are our students. Again, as has been said before, but it is important to say, we would meet every legal requirement, but the ability to do that extra, that Tier 2 and Tier 3, would be impacted. And then finally, just one last item. While we'll talk about this a little bit more next month, MCAS is a component of how we're evaluated by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. During the last 2 years, due to COVID in 2021 and 2022, we did not have accountability reports. Just as students receive report cards to track how they're doing, our districts and schools will go back to receiving a report card to identify strengths and areas of need. So to go back to our 2019 and 2020 report card, our district had made substantial progress. We were identified as being in one of the higher target ranges. My concern for the district and for our students is that our ability to provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 instructional support, a decreased teaching staff, and additional strain on educators will make it really difficult to sustain that momentum. And I just wanted to present publicly and transparently that the number of folks have worked incredibly hard on behalf of the students of the Dudley Charlton Regional School District, and I hope and have deep concerns that we need to keep this momentum moving forward.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Assistant Superintendent, I wanted to just ask you a question about, can you let us know roughly how much money in grants are we getting each year, or have we gotten over the past few years by having a position such as yours that would be able to go out and search for these grants and do those types of things?
If I were to add all the totals over the course of 3 years, it's probably close to $1 million.
Okay. I just want people to be aware that that takes a lot of time and effort, and not having someone that can do that would be impactful.
That's good work, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you. It really, and I will say, I give the credit to the team because
Yes.
to really inform those grant applications, to understand the nuances, and to really capture the essence of what we're seeking requires a team effort. So it really is all of us working together.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry, Director Bergeron just has
Sure.
brief remarks.
I am not nearly as eloquent as the folks who have spoken before me, but I just wanted to remind everyone that was listening, the message I brought to this committee and to our staff repeatedly over the past year is about the increase we're seeing in student need across the board. We talked about this just earlier this evening. We need another position for our EL folks. That's only one facet of the increased student need we're seeing in areas of mental health, reading ability, academic need. Our younger students who are coming in after interrupted learning with limited communication skills, not ready to learn. What we have right now is barely adequate to meet these students' needs. A decrease in what is barely adequate is not adequate. I really worry about the future of this district if this need continues to rise, and we're not seeing any sign that it will not, if we lessen the resources available to our staff to meet this increased need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, again, I thought it was really important because the principals have been attending all of these meetings. We've had meetings before these meetings. We've had a lot of dialogue. We have more to come, more work to do because there's still the vote on April 25th is unresolved. We don't know the results yet. So we have to do all of our planning and be prepared for both sides of that vote. So there's an incredible amount of work on their part, and they're very dedicated to the Dudley Charlton Regional School District. But as they talk about their own staff being strained, they as principals are certainly, as I've said a couple of times, we used to really pride ourselves in acknowledging people who go above and beyond, but it's truly a job requirement here to go above and beyond. It's certainly, we still want to recognize it and appreciate it in every way, but everybody who comes to work here realizes that going above and beyond is a requirement. It's not a nice to do here. So, the feelings that we're sharing too are not just isolated to Dudley Charlton in many regards. As I've shared with you, there are many communities who are contemplating proposition overrides for their budgets at this point in time. So there's a lot of work to be done in our Commonwealth, and we appreciate some of the moves from the House budget. But at this time, I would turn it over to Mr. Matthew for his budget memo, budget message number 4.
Thank you, Superintendent LaMarche. So the highlights of the budget message was to talk about our meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee in Charlton, and the meeting on April 5th to discuss the FY24 recommendations for annual town meeting. I think it's better news than the original assessment that they had voted and targeted for us, with the end result being the $1.9 million assessment increase noted before. It's a substantial increase from the previous votes, which is good. The flip side of this is, even though that is good news, it still requires a $600,000 reduction in Dudley Charlton. And if I could steer away from the memo for a minute, that's been the history in my brief time here of 8 years and 8 budget cycles, that every year, we can't quite get enough to keep everything the same, and so we have to not fill that retirement position, not fill that leave position, and make some other reduction when we have, for example, the health insurance savings. It was great to be able to reduce our usage of E&D that 1 year, but immediately we had need for textbooks. So we had to fill it in as a one-time gap. Then we had to fill it in again on a permanent basis because we needed the funding because the towns weren't able to generate the revenue required by our assessment. By any metric, Dudley Charlton is far below many other public school districts and academic regional school districts in resources available. It should be a sense of pride that you work a little bit harder. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the Yankee tradition, and I think that's very emblematic and noticeable in this district. But it does reach a point in time where you just can't do more, and not having at least a level service budget for next year, I think we'll start to see evidence of that more and more. But getting back to the memo, as previously discussed, there are a number of steps that we could take to get to that $600,000 reduction spelled out in the memo. However, in the 3 years of COVID, of which I have continued to just not believe the things that have occurred, I made a very clear statement in here. The House version of the budget is slated to be released next week, and the House Ways and Means numbers were released today. There should be no illusion that our state revenues will increase by $600,000 to meet the required $600,000 reduction to balance the FY24 budget. But there is a fair expectation that they may increase. Well, shockingly enough, I'm going to share good news. The House Ways and Means revenue increase, funding us at 100% of regional transportation, plus a $30 per pupil increase, would actually allow us to meet that revenue increase. It is rare, and Superintendent LaMarche will attest to this, that I celebrate good news because I always look for the other shoe to drop. So there. Glass half full kind of guy. Yes, it is half full because it's half empty. So while this number is not finalized, we'll have better information once the House version is officially voted and cherry sheets are available. But I did email Julie Kelly from Mars, and, made the inquiry about the regional transportation increase. If indeed, the House passes it, the Senate in the past has supported regional transportation greater than the House has. So her thought is there's a good likelihood, but no guarantee, that 100% will carry through to the end result of the budget. So that's good news. It allows us to overcome our immediate hurdle, which is meeting the assessment for the town of Charlton. And of course, we have April 25th as our ultimate hurdle for this year.
But just to play the role of Mr. Matthew.
Please, somebody has to.
Just because they release their numbers doesn't mean it's a done deal. We have to wait for the Senate to release their budget, and then it goes to committee, and then there's still a process. So what Mr. Matthew is elated about and excited about this evening could have a change as well, but I appreciate his level of enthusiasm based off of what the House released today.
And I think we've already shown that we have needs. We're not in compliance in certain areas, and things are variable. If you have a few move-ins, depending upon their needs, it could increase the budget need as well.
As a taxpayer and as a father, my daughter is in the 4th grade at Dudley Elementary. At the start of the year, the average class size was just a tick over 22. It now stands at between 25 and 26.
Right. Right.
And then the last thing I want to show is that I tried to put it on the screen up here, but it wasn't working, so I would ask Mr. Earl to focus on the screen over there with the camera. The town of Dudley has been working extremely hard to try to put all this information in a consolidated place, and today they did. So if anyone wanted to go to the Town of Dudley website, Town of Dudley, Massachusetts, on the top is a red bar, and it has all of the Proposition 2.5 override information in it that we've been working on, not only for us as a district, but also for the town. The 2 community meetings are in there as well, the 2 public forums that we had. But we also, a group of us, including Chair Carmignani, met last Friday and created a video to answer a lot of questions that have been emerging over time. And so that's called the override informational video, and that's in there. I won't play it all, but there is an informational video. Unfortunately, it does look like some of us are held captive for this. When we start, see right there.
It does.
But what it really tries to do is it's all of us as leaders talking about the questions and why we are where we're at. We thought it would be about 22 to 30 minutes. It's actually, after editing, it's a 48-minute video. So make a large cup of coffee, but it does provide a lot of answers to the questions that have been out there around why the 2.5, why the capital, why. So it does provide that information for our community. So we've worked with the town on this, and they did roll it out and launch it today. So it is there.
Can we put a link to that on our website?
Yep. There have been 60 views so far, and it was released 4 hours ago. So.
Good.
And 2 thumbs up. So it is there, but I wanted to show the community where to actually find it. Again, going to the Dudley Town of Dudley page in the red bar on the top to click it. So thank you, Mr. Earl.
Great.
And that concludes that agenda item, I believe, unless school committee had something else on
Does
that.
anyone have any questions or comments?
You said we're not going to talk about the possible path forward?
That was just a path. Still, we keep evolving that path. But again, with the House numbers coming in today, you heard Mr. Matthews say that there's a possibility that path may not have to be walked down. But if school committee wants to discuss it, it's your meeting.
I think we'll have much more information in our hands at our next meeting to be able to discuss a path forward, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. Okay, so moving forward for school choice.
Madam Chair and School Committee, on an annual basis, there's a vote for school choice. This is, the chart has been the same for the number of years. I've put it in memo form for you as a school committee. The information has been presented in a couple of ways, but the same information. And keep in mind that I do respectfully ask you to vote, if you do vote favorably to participate in school choice, that you vote for the overall numbers, as the school building principals manage their school choice program in their respective schools and have done a very effective job of doing that. We've always had a waiting list at our middle schools, and I'm confident we'll continue to have a waiting list. But given the nature of where we're at, that's why if you look at the chart, I have 30 students at the 2 middle schools with a question mark next to them because we don't know, based off of waiting for our fiscal outcome for FY24. School choice at the high school, once again, we always ask the school committee to approve a number, but we don't seem to always meet that mark in totality. So currently, we have 164 students in school choice, and keep in mind, by law, once they're accepted in school choice, they are able to attend our school regardless of the budget situation until they choose to not attend our schools through graduation. So those are roughly our numbers, and I am recommending a total of 204 slots for school choice for next year. And again, that will obviously be based off of where we are fiscally if we add any additional school choice students or maintain the 164 that are currently in place.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So we'd open it up for discussion?
I just have a question. You said, so the 204, is that, do you think that's close to what we agreed to last year and we came in lower?
It's lower than what we agreed to last year. I don't have that right in front of me, but it's lower.
Oh, it is lower, okay,
Yeah.
but our number never even came close
Right,
last
we
year.
had higher numbers for the middle school, but we lowered them because we're just not able to pull them in. And given where we are fiscally, we're not sure that we would pull anyone additionally in.
Sure.
Other than maintaining the 21 and the 23 that are currently in place. But again, we have long waiting lists for middle school slots.
Okay.
I would just like to say that while I may be in favor of voting for this at this point, I wouldn't want us to go out and offer spots to people until after we know what our fiscal situation is.
Keep in mind that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education requires us to report whether you vote to accept school choice or not accept school choice.
Right.
You're giving the number because we want you to have a number that kind of fits where we are for enrollment. But they're only looking for what grades and if you're accepting school choice or not school choice for financial reasons and claims in the future.
Numbers.
No, I don't. You don't report the exact numbers to them. Only on the claim sheets for school choice after. So, as I said, given the fiscal climate, we're stuck at 164 until we know better. And again, the principals do an incredible job of managing school choice within their facilities. And it's only 5 through 12.
Great. Okay. Does anyone have any? Yes, go ahead.
I think, just as a reminder, school choice comes with money. And it's one of the few ways we can generate money. And it's actually one of the ways that we just identified that we will pay for an extra EL teacher. So, and I think we need to think about, how many that we do accept under our fiscal climate right now, but the fact that it does generate money that we're able to utilize. So I just wanted to state that because I've heard it from several people that in the community that are thinking, well, why should we give you the ask because you accept school choice? And it's like, well, if we've asked for 2.2 and we get 1.9, something has to give. But we're purposely picking, and the principals are managing it, so it's not affecting the classes adversely by the numbers.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that's stated.
Right.
In this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll vote on accepting the school choice. All those in favor? And we are approved. Moving on to F, enrollment.
Madam Chair and School Committee, this is an annual process as well for us to determine whether we have space for staff students per their agreements. Per their agreements, they have the opportunity to enroll their children if they do not live in Dudley Charlton. This has been a benefit that is paid dividends because it's an incredible investment by our staff to have their own children enrolled in the school. We had 17 students last year. The request, last year we had a request for 17. We did lose one student. They enrolled somewhere else. But we have 16 now, and we're asking for only one new request for this school year, and that's for kindergarten at Charlton Elementary School. So all of the other students have been attending our schools for at least a year, if not longer. So I would respectfully ask the school committee to approve the enrollment request of DCRSD staff in accordance with their applicable employment agreements for the 2023-2024 school year.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
I'm sorry, I got the motion was Jamie Terry.
And Jamie DeLobo.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Do we have discussion?
I just have a question. What is there's 2 in parentheses next to it? What is
That
it?
means that there are 2 students, 2
Already?
staff students in that grade.
But didn't you say we have 16?
Yeah, isn't that 16?
Oh, and just one in all the other ones?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought you were just listing all the grades.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
No, that's okay. And we are, all these students live in Massachusetts?
Yes,
Okay. Great.
as per the agreements.
As per the agreements. Great. Does anyone have any further questions or concerns? No, I'll move that to a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries. Great, and we'll move on to the update of the Shepherd Hill Building, School Building Committees. Superintendent LaMarche?
Madam Chair and School Committee, as you were aware, the Shepherd Hill School Building Committee unanimously voted for a feasibility study of a value of $1 million. Part of that, the requirement was to now bring it to you as a regional school committee. We had to clear this through bond council first and then through MSBA, and that's why we're bringing it to you after all of those reviews. And I've now provided you in memo form the actual language of the motion to be voted by the school committee for the feasibility study. Keep in mind the feasibility study deadline for MSBA is June of this year. The beginning of June. They have a board meeting in June that they're expecting to understand where the communities of Dudley and Charlton are and where the regional school system is at that point in time. So, Madam Chair, I respectfully ask that the voted language be so moved.
Do we have to read it?
I would read it out loud for the record. Do you want me to read it out loud?
I don't care. If you want to.
If you would like to, go ahead.
So the motion that is before you as a school committee is that the Dudley Charlton Regional School District, the district, hereby appropriates the amount of $1 million for the purpose of paying costs of a feasibility study with respect to the scope of potential upgrades to the Shepherd Hill Regional High School located at 68 Dudley Oxford Road, Dudley, Massachusetts, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. The study. Said amount to be expended under the direction of the school building committee. To meet this appropriation, said amount shall be assessed upon each of the district's member towns as a capital assessment and apportioned between each of the member towns in accordance with the capital cost apportionment formula set forth in the district agreement. The district acknowledges that the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA's, grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the Mass School Building Authority, and any costs the district incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the Mass School Building Authority shall be the sole responsibility of the district, provided further that the amount of the capital cost assessment for this project made pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the feasibility study agreement that may be executed between the district and the Mass School Building Authority.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the matter? Nope. Okay, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then GB is Mr. Matthew.
Thank you. So I did provide the committee with updated assessment sheets to include as a capital cost the feasibility study. Additionally, in Charlton, the Board of Selectmen has voted to utilize $1.5 million of ARPA funds to help pay for the September 2022 capital projects. So you'll see that listed on the assessments as per request. The feasibility study is noted as one time, but going forward, inside of the detail pages of the assessment, I am going to list out all of the individual capital items, so it's easier for the towns to know what has been debt excluded, what hasn't been, et cetera. On the Dudley side, obviously, we have the feasibility study and the amount that's included in the override for the September 2022 capital projects. And again, it's noted as override contingent. So if the override is not successful and that $1.437 million is not put forward again as some sort of override, operational override, then we'll have to vote a new assessment and take that off.
There's no need for a vote on any of this time, right?
I'm going to provide it to the towns. If school committee wants to vote to approve, that's fine. We certainly have another meeting prior to annual town meeting. We will have hopefully house numbers by that point in time. So it's really up to the committee, and we'll have an idea of where the override stands, obviously, by our next meeting as well. So it's up to the committee as to whether you want to approve this now or just vote at the 26th, but I will share it with the town either way, both towns either way.
Should we probably wait? Yeah, let's wait.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Is there any other further business that we need to discuss? No. Yes, go
Madam
ahead.
Chair, I just, I'm going to respectfully request that at the April 26th meeting that we add executive session for MNA, our Nurses Association negotiations.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? And motion carries. We're adjourned.